But yeah, so Zeos did just confirm for me it's going to be 2 map matches, and it's going to be on a point system. So effectively, it's just going to be a matter of, I mean, I don't know, hockey, soccer, various sports that use that sort of system where a win is worth a certain number of points, and then the number of points at the end of the season will determine. I'm not sure if there's going to be a playoff system or if they're just going to take the top 4 teams and do like a first place game and then like a third place game. But certainly every map will matter in this season. And that's one of the advantages to doing a system like this. You also don't have to worry too much about which team gets first pick, which team gets how do you choose a tiebreaker and all that, because every team's going to have a chance to choose which map they want to play against which team. So yeah, map list. I'm going to go ahead and run down here a little bit. You've got let's see. I've got a few different groupings here based on how I was looking at them. And Grindle Keep, of course, is where you're going to start. It's pretty much the most commonly played map in 2K4, has been pretty much since it came out. And I think that's because it's one of those maps that it's just very well-rounded, and it's very well balanced, and I don't think teams feel pigeonholed into playing a certain way. Unlike some of the other maps where you feel like there is 1 or 2 correct ways to play it, you can run a few different offenses or defenses on Grindle Keep and still be effective based on your team's sort of skill set.
Yeah, I think it just, for 2K4, it plays really well. It's a good size and has a good amount of power-ups, but not too much. Offenses can get pretty stacked pretty quickly if you're running around getting vials. But
yeah, Grindle Keep's definitely one I expect every single team to be picking at some point during this regular season. I think we have 13 maps in the map pool, and you're going to be playing 6 matches apiece. So only half the maps have to get picked by each team, and I think Grindle Keep's going to be one we're going to see by everybody. The next map on the list, we're going to look at Oh, that's not the right title. Well, we'll just pretend like I didn't get that name wrong. Alright, so Pistola is going to be the other one. And I think this is the one that we're probably also going to see picked by every team in here. Similar reasons, it's not quite the same as Grindle Keep in that there's really no way to run it quickly. But I think it's one of those maps that, especially now that everyone's computers can handle all of the chaos that goes on in mid, I think everyone's familiar enough with it that it's going to be just a common map pick. I think you can run 1 offense, you can run 3 offense, depending on how your flag grabbers can attack. That will really dictate how you run the map. But I think every team is going to be able to look at their roster and say, we can beat at least one other team on Pistola.
yeah, and what's kind of interesting about this map is the teams that go ahead and captains that pick a true mid-type player, you can really play a true mid on this map and be very effective. So I think those teams that pick, like a Zelos that's going to sit in mid and get all the amps, or somebody like that, will really be strong on this map.
Yeah, that's really one of the defining characteristics of Pistola is there's a huge emphasis on mid, and then of course the large bases that you'll see. We've seen some really long flag standoffs even in just the last couple weeks in pickup games because of people getting into that base and stacking up in all those vials. Alright, so moving on, we're going to see Virility is another map. This one's a newer one. It's a remake from UT99. It's one that people have been playing a lot lately in 2K4 though. And of all the recent remakes we've had, this is the one that I get the sense is most universally liked, certainly accepted. And I think this is one that we're also going to see every single team pick at some point, and they're just going to have to pick and choose which team they can play it against.
Yeah, Virility is an interesting map on offense because you can really do a lot of doubling back and stall the enemy's defense. You can kind of get lost where they're going out into the middle and wondering where you are, and you can make some good flag carries just like that.
Yeah, although I will say this, unlike some of the other newer maps, like your Vault Cities and the other ones we'll cover a little bit down the line here, we've also seen some really, really low-scoring maps on Virility. It can be, if you have a good defensive tandem, you can really play them on an island. You don't have to worry about putting your third offensive player in mid to necessarily cut off the flag carrier. They can be a little bit more aggressive. And so I think that teams that have 2 solid defensive players together can probably pick this map and be fairly confident that they can put 3 fully aggressive offense able to pull that flag across.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice if you are running a true 3 offense like that when they're coming across middle, because the the flag is so kind of smaller than some maps, you can have one of your defense push up and help your flag get in.
Alright, we're going to go right back to another relatively new remake from UT99. That's going to be Vault City. Not entirely dissimilar to Virility in that it is possible to keep the scores low. However, it's very difficult to keep the flag in base for very long on this map. It's a very long and narrow map, however, and so I think everything gets bottled up in mid. And I think this is almost it's almost like a faster version of Pistola in that the mid play comes in a lot, and this is another one of those maps where you see a lot of true mid players, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. As there's the amp in middle and the 100 in middle, you can have a true mid, like I was talking about earlier in one of the previous maps, and you'll see a lot of fallback in this map as well, where since the flag does get off the stick so much, you'll see your middle, if you do play a true mid, you'll see him fall back a lot to get that return.
Well, especially if you have someone getting stacked and grabbing maybe an amp in mid, you can actually see pretty much every route through mid from that top platform. You can see every exit from every base, and so you can really sit there and play insta-gib if you've got an amped LG, and you can effectively cover and kill enemy flag carriers at the same time, because you don't have to worry about a bigger map like, say, Anfractuous, where if you're committing to one side, you're completely negating the other side. On a smaller, narrower map like Vault City, you can actually see both at once, and so that's why I think the mid play really comes to the forefront on a map like that.
Yeah, and that being said, what's kind of nice, depending on where you play your defenses, but lately defense have been playing too low, one at Rockets and one at Link, and you can actually see straight through the map, and you can sometimes get kills on their D if they're peeking as well. So.
Yeah, I still think people are kind of getting used to Vault City and both how to run offense and how to run defense, so it'll be interesting to see how teams try to set up their matchups and who they choose to play it against. But speaking of Anfractuous, that's actually the next map on my list. And this is one where the flags are moving non-stop no matter how good your D is.
Yeah, this map's crazy. A lot of teams like to play, well, you can play it two different ways. You can do the true 3-0 or you can do a mid here as well. But if you do play a true 3-0, what you'll see a lot is one person will grab and piston out one side. And really, they'll just be grabbing so that they'll end up dying, and somebody else will cherry pick immediately and go the opposite direction. And also with that, with a cherry pick, this is a map where you can really hide in their base for a while, so that they, the enemy defense, while they just got a flag kill, they're going to be running around the whole map wondering where you are. So.
Yeah, in the first 5 maps here that I've covered, which are the ones that I think are all going to get picked by every team, I think Anfractuous is the one that really emphasizes your sort of natural flag runners. And being able to double back and having those instincts to maybe even ninja. This is the first one that we mentioned so far that you can really ninja run and can solo your way across if you can confuse the defense and juke them out of their shoes. And I think it's also one due to how hard it is to keep your base sealed off when your flag carrier is coming in. I think this is one that really requires the most timing and chemistry across the whole team, because you're constantly in flag transition. Very rarely will your base actually be locked down for any period of time.
Yeah, to that point, your defense is, if you do get a flag kill, you're not necessarily going to return the flag immediately. You can wait, if enemy flags come in base, you can wait and do a timed return, and you'll see that a lot as well.
Alright, well, let's keep moving along. We got another remake here, Bleak. One that's a little bit more, I don't want to say controversial, but we have a lot more opinions on whether or not this map is in its final state. Certainly there's some tweaks going on with it. But I believe we're going to be using the sort of original CE version just because it's at least finalized and people are familiar with it. But Bleak is another one where these flags are going to be moving a lot.
Yeah, Bleak is definitely crazy. I've actually seen a team run 4 offense on this. You're going to keep that flag off the stick. Most teams do play the 3-0 2D, but what you'll see especially here is that second D that's not on the flag is going to push up out to mid constantly, because the enemy team is going to be dropping back a lot to get these flags returned.
Yeah, Bleak, however, again, you're getting into this situation. You had those first 5 maps that I think are going to be picked by everyone. Now you're getting into situations where you only have to pick one more out of the remaining ones, and I could see Bleak not being picked by certain teams depending on what their lineup is looking like. And moving on to another map that's right along the same lines, it's going to be Orbital Classic. This is one of those maps that as well a lot of people really hate and a lot of people really like.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Some people, you get on a pickup game and you start to talk about maps, and half the time you say this map to your team, and everybody says F that. So we'll see how much it really gets picked. I know there's a few players that absolutely love it. It's typically those types of players that want to run the 3 offense and then just want to play really sneaky offense and get those solo flag runs across the map.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the maps that has the most route switching possibilities. You look at a map like Bleak, it has a lot of routes across mid, but you can't switch between them that easily, so you tend to end up getting knocked down to that bottom natural low route. Whereas in Orbital Classic, especially with the jump boots, you can switch it up on the D very quickly, and what tends to happen is the defense ends up having to go to mid to cut you off, and then the offense comes out to kill you from behind, and you can really put a lot of pressure on the defenses on this map if you have some good dynamic offensive.
Yeah, and with that, this is a map where if you get a team that's really controlling power-ups, especially the enemy's amp, you can get that amp cover going and you can get a flag run really quickly. So those amps are really crucial.
Yeah, shout out to Dave Ewing, probably one of the most played CTF maps throughout the series of UT, and I think he's, as if I recall, he's still at Epic right now, last that I heard, so I don't know what he's doing these days, but be interested to know if he's aware that we're still playing his map. But okay, moving right along to another. Actually, we're gonna keep with the theme here. We're gonna go with Maul. Yet another map that I think has fallen a little bit out of favor more recently, and I think that's because of the fact that the average sort of skill level as far as fragging ability has gone up, and that has a tendency to make this map really turn into just a meat grinder.
Yeah, this is just a map with some health packs. There's no power-ups. There's no 100 shield, no 50 shield, no 25 shield. So offense, if you're running like a 3-0, you pretty much grab and die because the enemy defenses are usually going to be people that are you're going to get an in-base D, someone like maybe a Cafe, pinging really low. He's going to have that flak in your face, and then you're going to have somebody on the hill with hit scan. So you're going to have that long-range hit scan dynamic with somebody in your face inside the base, and you definitely die a lot on this.
I will say this, we may see this one picked if teams think that they have the matchups. I mean, even if a team doesn't like this map, if they think that they've got a good matchup and are just a better team of fraggers versus the team they're playing against, I think they won't be able to resist just trying to pick this map for the sake of just running out there and just this shock taping and out shooting people.
Yeah, well, that and just particularly picking this map against a team that has several players in their top 5 that might just hate it.
Yeah, true. There is definitely a mental aspect to that, because Maul is definitely a marathon. No matter what the score is, there's always a chance to come back if you're not able to keep your mental stamina there. All right, we're going to go the exact opposite direction here to Bulwark, which isn't physically the largest map on here. I think probably Orbital 2 would be the physically largest one, but Bulwark can be a really, really slow, plodding game, depending on how the power-ups end up being distributed.
Yeah, and with Keg and 100 and Amp in the middle, this is, I think, another map where you're going to be favored if you have one of those people that runs a true middle and is really timing all those power-ups. If you control those power-ups, and then if you have good defense that can use that button and base, either offensively or defensively, to get flags in and out, then your team can do really well here.
Yeah, one of the few maps that has basically a moving part, essentially a gimmick map. One of the few that has that has still survived competitive play over all these years. All right, moving on to another one that we're getting into the list. We're getting to the bottom of these lists, or of the list into these maps that I don't think teams are going to be picking very often. I think you may see them sort of cherry pick based on if they have a team that's particularly comfortable with them, or if they're playing against a team that they think they have a good matchup against. November CE. Another old map, another one every single person's going to be familiar with, and every single person's going to have some really long matches in their memory.
Yeah, I think this is another love-hate for, depending on who you are. This map is just, I played this map back in the day, and I just remember really, really, really long overtimes if the two teams match up correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I think Notorious actually played something like a 30 to 40 minute overtime against Wet Dream one time on this match, and I happened to be out of town or moving or something whenever that match occurred, and so I missed it. And I came back and I saw the screenshots and people like 350 points and all that. And so I was just thanked the gods that I was out of town right on that weekend, because I don't know if I could play this map 3 times back to back to back essentially.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could either. That was definitely a notorious staple. This was definitely a map they picked a lot.
Yeah, we actually, towards the end there, began running a little bit of an unconventional setup. We would actually have one of our old school rocket players, you know, guys like Hydro, who just really like to spam rockets all over the place, playing solo flag D, and then we would push 2 of our fraggers out to mid, and then 2 of our offensive players into the enemy base. And so there are a couple different ways that you can push the aggression on November. However, I think what a lot of people fear is that if they pick this map and they end up going down by a cap, then the enemy team's just going to compress all the way back into their base and just spam every window and just make it a nightmare to get in.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. You go up by a cap and you'll hear in TeamSpeak a lot, alright, 3D, so yeah. I don't know, we'll see what happens.
However, I really think what you would see is if you see a team that is playing against a team that has an offensive emphasis and they think that their defense can stop them and that their offense can out-frag the enemy D, November could be a good choice, because if flag runners can get away and they're familiar with the map, they can actually do some pretty interesting things on it. Alright, getting back into another Leviathan here. We're talking about Orbital 2. I personally love this map, but this is another one that sort of fallen out of favor as the years have gone on. I think just due to the sort of natural, like I say, the natural progression of people's fragging abilities, it's made it very difficult to get in and out with the flags. And especially as you're playing a lot more pugs and pickup games where you're not really playing in organized teams that have played together for a long enough time to have the chemistry to overcome that, I think this map is going to be one that might not be picked very often. It might be picked once or twice if teams, again, think that they have a favorable matchup on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're going to see some people that just have like, if you're a defense, you've been playing defense forever, you can do a lot of trans tricks in the base where you can put somebody on the flag stick and maybe set your trans ahead or vice versa, and you can get in front and behind the flag carriers real easily. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah,
big maps like Orbital 2, I think, really put a lot of pressure on the offenses to work together. You're not going to see any speed runs. You're not going to see any really extreme levels of trickeration. There are a couple nice little trick jumps you can do, but you're not going to get, like on some of these smaller maps, you're not going to get the D looking away for 2 seconds and then sneak by and all of a sudden get a free cap. You really have to play it as a team, and you have to run across as a team, because you're pretty much going to count on a couple of flag drops and having to get a really long relay cap in. You're looking at anywhere from 45 seconds to a minute going flag to flag if you've got drops in there, which is probably double to triple the time on some of these maps. However, like I say, if you've got a team that wants to slow the game down and has experienced players, we may see this map come out. Now going to the exact opposite, probably not the newest, but probably one of the newest maps to most of our players in here is going to be Protress. I know it's been played a couple times in the past few months, but it's certainly the least played of the new remakes that I've seen on this list.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the maps where it's really going to be picked only if a team decides to master it. It is a very crazy map. It's actually, I consider it faster paced than even Bleak at this point. The flags are always off the stick. I've seen a 4 offense play like that on this map. I personally played a 2 defense when I've been playing it, but it is very fast paced. You have to have defenses that can get up there, get in front of flag carriers, and get the flags back on the stand.
Yeah, it's so new I've never even played a single game on Protress. I was jumping around it the other night for the first time, so I haven't even casted a match on it because nobody's picked it. That's kind of how new and how sort of new to the community it is. However, if you've got a team that feels like they may do a little bit of undercover work, they may be scrimming it on the side and decide that they can pull this as a wild card out and to play it against a team that's never played it before. And so you do have a little bit of strategy going on there.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a good pistoner on your team and they master some of these piston jumps that you can do on here, you can cap a flag within 10 seconds, so it's pretty crazy.
Alright, and the last map on the list, the one that I really don't expect to be picked at all, is going to be Campers Crossing. This map was one, it was much more popular in the European scene, I guess it probably still is, but really just, it never really caught on in the North American scene, and there was a few reasons for that.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting map. You can actually do a lot of crazy piston jumps on this one here. It definitely was more popular way back in the day, 2004, 2005, 2006. But as of recent, I haven't even seen it playing in the pug at all. So we'll see what happens. You can do some really, really crazy lip jumps and pistons across mid and whatnot. Not to mention, this map is huge. If you go out the mini side, which we're looking at there, you can do some doubling back, and you can really lose some defenders. So, I mean, it's an interesting map, but I agree. I don't think it'll be picked very much. I have not seen it played in a single pug lately. So,
Yeah, I actually think it was played in the original MLUT, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the first time I had seen it, and the Europeans, of course, played it in a lot of their Nations Cups and all that. And so I remember playing a lot in European pugs, but I think it just did not really catch on in the North American landscape, in part because it was another one of those maps where it was very easy to stick 3 or 4 people in your flag room and just really lock it down.